My preferred solution to it happens to be a little more expensive, but takes care of almost all of these issues. And that is offshore turbines. You put wind turbines offshore, then you can't see them. You can't hear them. They don't tend to block migration paths. And that's something that some people are concerned about, that they block migration paths and birds fly into them. It's not as common as you think, and it really only happens in one generation because the birds that don't fly into them and successfully reproduce, their descendants know not to do that as well. We talked about natural selection yesterday, so this is a result thereof. The downside of having them offshore is they're more expensive. They're more expensive to build and they're more expensive to maintain. But one of the things you have to decide is the cost worth it? Because wind power is essentially free once you've got these set up, and it is pretty much 100% clean. So make sure that you guys secure the water rights in this area, particularly the most important water rights for the people. The clean rivers, the sacred rivers for the various nations, and anything that is essential to life. If you've got well water, you're pretty much safe there. But particularly around Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, those regions, you've got to want to look at who owns it and who has the rights. It's a very political issue. I mean, you just look at places like Walkerton and Detroit, and there's also further north here, there were some of the Aboriginal nations that weren't getting clean water. So even just in the area, these are places that have not got clean water, and the water rights have been trampled on, and it's something that has to have things done. Climate change. Everyone knows about climate change, everyone talks about climate change, except for the EPA. And climate change has wide-reaching consequences. You should at least, at this point, be vaguely familiar with climate change. I'm going to go into exactly how climate change is going to impact people here in this region. So I'm going to talk about the impact on activities, particularly tourism, but also you guys, I'm sure, enjoy getting out on the lake as well. And some of you may be snowmobilers, I don't know. Impact on the environment here, and then what will the climate be like further down the line. So the impact on activities is first. You may have noticed that we're having sporadic weather in the winters. We're not having these long, cold winters with lots of snow on an even keel, where it snows in December and it pretty much stays on the ground until March. My wife has a cousin in Owen Sound, and he was trying to build a toboggan run for his kids, and he'd get snow dumped on him, and the snowplow would dump more on him. And he'd end up with like 5 or 6 feet of snow, and he'd shape it into a nice slope, and the temperature would jump up to 10 or 12 degrees, and it would melt. And that happened 3 times this winter. So we can see that having this reliable snow for things like snowmobiling and snowshoeing and cross-country skiing is much more difficult now, because we're not having those steady cold winters, we're having sporadic jumps in temperature. Trying to stop the rate of the temperature is unfortunately not going to happen. We're past the tipping point. If everyone right now today closed every single coal plant, turned off all of their cars, and didn't use any fossil fuels at all, we would still be on the road where we progress to the 2-degree temperature change that is considered critical, and that will raise the temperatures overall fairly dramatically. This is a flying car. This is not an imagined flying car. This is an actual production model flying car. Now, it's not the Jetsons. You can't jump in this thing and just hover and fly over. What it is, it's a car that can pull into an airstrip and extend the wings and then take off. You could very much be served the same thing by having 2 cars and a small airplane. The difference is you don't have to worry about leaving things around. This is not the largest area in the world. You don't have a big airstrip. You don't have massive parking. I remember reading in your paper that parking is going to be at a very high premium this year because of the national parks being free. So you don't want to have cars all over the place. This is the sort of thing that if you had seriously foolish money, you would be able to, let's say, fly from Windsor up here, and then drive around in it.